Alright guys, wanted to start a series of training videos, might make it a little easier for the Highland team to catch up on trainings and disperse some information. Due to snow use this weekend, or chain use this weekend during heavy snow, it kind of prompted one of these first trainings. We had some damage done to the ambulance due to improper use of the chains, so I felt like go ahead and clarify a few things on how to use chains, how to apply them, when to use them, that kind of thing. First off, when we bought chains, the reason we wanted those is to access properties that haven't been plowed. So residential addresses that haven't been plowed, or the back roads that haven't been plowed. They're not really to be used out on the main roads like Lookout Mountain, Highway 40, I-70, that kind of thing. Any roads that are relatively cleared by plows, go ahead and just use four-wheel drive only on the vehicles. I do tend to keep really premium tires on the vehicles, especially in the winter, so you should have pretty good traction. If you do decide to install chains, the preference is to go and take your backup ambulance and fully chain it. So chains on all four corners, and then have that vehicle, hopefully you have the crew available to have that vehicle go back into residence, bring out your patients, and then transfer your patient over to another ambulance, is the idea with that. So you can either transfer and go to an ambulance at one of the exits, or you could actually stop and take the time to take the chains off the vehicle as well. But the chains are not intended to be taken down to the hospital or out on the interstate. Absolute maximum speed on the chains is recommended at 30. I'll let you guys go up to an absolute max of 35, but I really don't want it being pushed any harder than that. Preferably snow-packed roads only, not on dry pavement, okay? Let's go through kind of what we have as far as equipment and how to chain up a vehicle. You'll find these orange buckets in the station, and these are numbered for what ambulance the chains will fit. Okay, 287 and 289 both have the same size tires, so this one bucket will work for either of those ambulances. 288 has a slightly smaller tire, and that's what this bucket here is for. Okay. When you open up these buckets, you'll find 4 chains in each bucket, as well as some chain tensioners, and I'll show you what each of those look like. The chains that are in there, you'll have 2 that are specific for the front and 2 that are more specific for the rear. The rear ones are going to be your heavier duty chains that we also have what we call V-bar chains, and the front ones are going to be a little bit lighter duty chain. So I can show you those right here. If you can see the difference between these 2 chains, this would be appropriate for a front tire, this would be appropriate for the rear tires. And these we call, you can see how it's a lot thicker steel, as well as it has these little V-bar cross links in there. Those give a little bit more traction, whereas this one does not, okay? When you're putting these on, obviously these V-bars are you're gonna wanna have those touching the pavement itself, not facing in towards the tire. So when you're orienting these, you'll see how that kind of goes. The other thing you'll find on these is there's 2 different sides. There's kind of an inner and an outer. The inner part will have this hook. The outer part will have some type of a clasp that can be attached on the outside of the tire. And I'll show you how those actually work. On this particular chain, it also has a different type of tensioner on it, which are these right here, which I'll show you here towards the end of the video. If chains are used improperly, I do want to show you the damage that occurred over this last weekend. If you look at this chain, you can see several broken links. When these links break, they actually tend to fly out and cause damage to the ambulance itself. 289 had to go in for some repairs. It basically bent up some of the inner fender well. As well as, if you look, you can tell this chain was used in excessive speed because most of the V-bars are actually broken out. You can see how there's one still left here, but most of these are missing. Several of the links have actually broken. And this caused not only damage to the chains, which these chains are about $80 a pair, plus it costs at least a few $100s in damage to the ambulance itself. Probably somewhere around $400 or $500 when it's all said and done. So that's what we're hoping to prevent. I'm going to go ahead and install a set of chains here just so you can see what's involved with it. We'll put some on the rear of 289. What I'm going to do is, this is a set of V-bar chains since we're putting it on the rear. I'm going to make sure that the V's are facing out. The other thing I'm going to do is make sure this hook is towards the inside of the vehicle. Okay? So I need to orient that V-bars out, hook towards the inside. You can do this a number of different ways. One I've found to be the best is take about the middle of the chain and drop it over the top. Okay? And you'll actually want to try to space these out a little bit and get it worked around there. Unfortunately, There's really no easy way to keep yourself clean when you're doing this, especially when you're, when the bay floor is all muddy. You're gonna have to crawl up under the vehicle when you do this. One thing I found is I pull out an old backboard. Oftentimes it'll help keep my clothes at least somewhat clean. Because what you have to do is that hook that we saw on the other side, you gotta crawl in there and hook that hook up under here, okay? So I'm gonna kind of try to do that right now. Sometimes you can actually reach the hook and do it through the middle here. Other times you can't, in which case it's actually better to drive the vehicle forward. So I'm going to do that real fast because I don't think I'm going to be able to reach this one. So we're going to drive it forward with the chain in that position real quick. As you can see, I just drove it forward a foot or two, usually about a foot or so. Now we can get this hook and actually hook these two together. Okay, you see I'm taking that hook and hooking it in here. If that seems rather loose, you can skip up one link and hook it one link further in as well. Okay? Then you're gonna wanna pull these chains around and get them evened out as best you can. This can take a little bit of manipulation, okay? Then, you gotta deal with this little link. What I tend to do is skip forward to the farthest link I can reach with it. In this case, we'll hook it on this one. We could probably get up to that one, but we're gonna hook it here just so I'm not messing with it too long for the video. And you can see how I'm putting that through the link, folding it back over on itself, and then this little clasp hooks in like that. And we've got this extra little bit of link. We'll take care of that with the tensioners, okay? Now there should be several tensioners in the box. Sometimes you may use more than one set. I will usually hook one on this little link here, these extra links, so they're not flopping around and chewing up the fender well. And then sometimes if you have enough hook, you can actually take and hook it a second time like this just to hold that down, or you can just leave it out like this. You're then going to want to take your rubber tensioner and work it around the tire like that, okay? If you're not getting tight enough with one, we do keep extra tensioners. You could put 2 or 3 rubber tensioners on here. This is a little too loose. This should actually be tighter. If I were to do this properly, I'd probably take the time to go ahead and change that hook over one more link on the inside and maybe even one more out here to get some of this slop out of this, okay? As well as put in one or maybe even 2 more of these rubber tensioners, okay? So that would be appropriate on how you actually attach the chain. You can see we got the V-bars to the outside and we got this link here. Let's go look at the front tire. I've already put that one on. Unfortunately, we have it in a bad position where you can't see much. Can you get in there with the camera? Okay. With this tire, we actually have a few other things kind of going on with it. As you can see, I've already got it kind of tightened down, but we do have these other tensioners I talked to you guys about. The way those work is once you get the tire on, there's a little tool that has gotten lost over time. You'll find a large flathead screwdriver actually works. But when you put them on, you're going to put them on in this fashion with this kind of ellipsis facing out. And you can see how that these two, the distance between this chain and this chain are further apart. Once you get the chain on itself, then you're going to take each one of these and twist it over like that. And you can see how it decreases this gap a little bit. And there's several of these around the chain. So by the time you get all of those tensioned up, that actually puts quite a bit more tension on the tire. Okay? And you can see how it's got a very similar link here on the front for that link, and how I've also taken the spare chain and hooked it back here so it's not flopping around. Make sure to kind of take and tighten these down as much as you can. Drive around with them for a little bit, go up and down the block real fast, and then when you come back, tighten them up again. Because what you'll find is once you drive with them, they tend to loosen up a little bit. So keeping these as tight as possible is good, and then you're keeping your speeds under 30, 35 absolute max miles per hour will keep you from having or causing damage to the vehicle itself or breaking chain links. If you do hear any excessive noise or if you break any links, take the time to go ahead and stop and remove the chain before continuing, because otherwise you're just going to cause damage. All right, thank you.